Good morning. We'll start with our fire ceremony.
Om Bhurbhuvah Svah Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Om Bhurbhuvah Svah Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Om Bhurbhuvah Svah Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Om Bhurbhuvah Svah Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Om Bhurbhuvah Svah Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Om Bhurbhuvah Svah Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Om Bhurbhuvah Svah Om Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonaha Prachodayat. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sagandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityormukshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sagandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityormukshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sagandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityormukshiyamamritat Swaha. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sagandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanam Mrityormokshiyamamritat swaha. Om Triyambakam yajamahe sagandhim pushtivardhanam Purvarukamiva bandhanam Mrityormokshiyamamritat swaha. Om Triyambakam yajamahe sagandhim pushtivardhanam Purvarukamiva bandhanam Mrityormokshiyamamritat swaha. Om Triyambakam yajamahe sagandhim pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva bandhanam Mrityormokshiyamamritat swaha. Om Triyambakam yajamahe sagandhim pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva bandhanam Mrityormokshiyamamritat swaha.
Om Swaha. Om Swaha. Om Swaha. Good morning, and welcome to our Satsang here in Bangalore. Let's begin with a prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, beloved Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, beloved Swamiji, we bow to you again and again. Divine Mother, inspire us to be in tune with Thee. Inspire us again and again to act as your instruments. We yearn for Thee. Fill us with your joy, the joy to share with all souls everywhere. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Please be seated, and we will begin our meditation. So in preparation, let's inhale, tense and vibrate our bodies. Throw the breath out. Again, tense and vibrate. Throw the breath out. And one last time. Tense and vibrate. Throw the breath out. Now we'll have some chanting and then meditation to follow. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Io sono tuo, sono tuo, sono tuo. Io sono tuo, mio Signore. Io sono tuo, sono tuo, sono tuo. Io sono tuo, mio Signore. Sii tu mio, sii tu mio, sii tu mio Signore. Io sono tuo, mio Signore. Sii tu mio, sii tu mio, sii tu mio Signore. Io sono tuo, mio Signore. Io sono tuo, sono tuo, sono tuo. Io sono tuo, mio Signore. Io sono tuo, sono tuo, sono tuo. Io sono tuo, mio Signore. Sii tu mio, sii tu mio, sii tu mio Signore. Io sono tuo, mio Signore. Sii tu mio, sii tu mio, sii tu mio Signore. Io sono tuo, mio Signore. Ich bin dein, ich bin dein, ich bin dein. Ich bin dein, ich bin dein. Ich bin dein, ich bin dein, ich bin dein. Ich bin dein, ich bin dein. Sei du mein, oh, sei du mein. Sei du mein, oh, sei du mein. Ich bin dein, ich bin dein. Sei du mein, oh, sei du mein. Sei du mein, oh, sei du mein. Ich bin dein, ich bin dein. Ich bin dein, ich bin dein, ich bin dein. Ich bin dein, ich bin dein. Ich bin dein, ich bin dein, ich bin dein. Ich bin dein, ich bin dein. Sei du mein, oh, sei du mein. Sei du mein, oh, sei du mein. Ich bin dein, ich bin dein. Sei du mein, oh, sei du mein. Sei du mein, oh, sei du mein. Ich bin dein, ich bin dein. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine, I am thine. Lord, I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. Be thou mine, oh, be thou mine. I am thine, I am thine. I am thine, I am thine.
Good morning once again, and welcome to our Satsang here in Bangalore. I'll begin reading from Paramahansa Yogananda's Whispers from Eternity, entitled, O Divine Sculptor, chisel thou my life. Every sound that I make, let it have the vibration of thy voice. Every thought that I think, let it be saturated with the consciousness of thy presence. Let every feeling that I have glow with thy love. Let every act of my will be impregnated with thy divine vitality. Let every thought, every expression, every ambition be ornamented by thee. O divine sculptor, chisel thou my life according to thy design. And from the New Path by Swami Kriyananda, this reading is drawn from the chapter, The Teaching is Individual. One of my office jobs was to send weekly announcements to the newspapers to let people know which minister would be speaking at which church the next Sunday and what his sermon topic would be. Master had been lecturing fortnightly at our San Diego church, alternating weekly between there and Hollywood. During recent months, however, he had taken to going to San Diego only occasionally. The church members there who naturally wanted to see him were told to check the church page of the San Diego Union every Saturday. Whenever a master's coming was announced, the church was filled to overflowing. One week in May, I was instructed to send in the announcement that Master would appear there the following Sunday. It had been at least 2 months since his last appearance there. I smiled to think how delighted the congregation members would be. Saturday morning, Bernard came to my room with horrifying news. Master can't go to San Diego after all. He wants you to speak in his stead. Me? But I've never lectured before in my life. He also wants you, Bernard continued, to give a Kriya Yoga initiation afterwards. What? But my goodness, I've only attended one initiation. 2, Bernard corrected me. Remember, Master also initiated you last October at 29 Palms. All right, 2. But what difference does that make? I mean, well, of course I'll obey, but oh, those poor people. You only have to initiate one of them, Master. Bernard consoled me. Here's money for the bus. You better leave immediately. An incident several hours later, Reverend Michael, later Brother Bhaktananda, reviewed for me the outlines of the Kriya ceremony. I worked hard on my sermon also. With sinking heart, I drove down the next morning to San Diego. In a little room behind the church, I prayed desperately for help and guidance. As the time arrived for the service to begin, I went out and sat in the chair at the center of the stage, as was the custom in those days. Through the closed curtains, I could clearly hear the murmur of a large and eagerly waiting crowd. The dreaded moment arrived. I stood up. The curtains parted. My worst fears were realized. The church was completely packed. People were standing in the aisles. Others were craning their heads in through the windows. I could feel the wave of shock as something almost physical. Instead of their long-awaited guru, here before them was an unknown and rather lost-looking boy of 22, asking them if they were still awake and ready. I felt so sorry for them and their disappointment that I overlooked the awkwardness of my own position. If everyone there had walked out, I would have understood. But regular meditation evidently had made them gracious. No one left. The Kriya initiation that afternoon frightened me even more than the service. Michelle Evans, the lady I initiated, looked as terrified as I was, infected, as she later admitted to me, by my own insecurity. Master's blessings, however, powerfully present, soon dispelled all my anxiety. The ceremony went smoothly. I returned to Mount Washington that afternoon, bowed perhaps, but unbloodied. Later, Master received compliments on my lecture. Most of all, he reported pleased, they liked your humility. Humility, I reflected, under the circumstances, had been virtually unavoidable. A friend many years ago also shared somewhat of a similar story that she herself experienced. She was working for a cosmetic company, and she was to give a very important presentation then the next day. And so she prepared and went in with her slideshow, ready to share the products of her firm. And when she started the slideshow, she was absolutely dumbfounded. It wasn't the slides that she had prepared. It was the slides of her recent trip to Romania. And she thought, oh my God. And as she started the show, she thought, well, I'm going down in flames. I might as well enjoy myself. And so she began to improvise. And this was no easy thing to do because in her show, in her slideshow of her recent trip were pictures of donkeys and goats on the mountainside and all kinds of things, having nothing to do, of course, with cosmetics. But somehow, some way, she rose to the occasion and tied all of these products that she was going to present with her other slideshow. As the slides came up, then she would say, well, you know, this and so about this product and so forth. It smells like the wonderful ocean breeze that I remember there on the mountainside, all of that. Well, the next day, she wanted to go in, of course, apologize to her boss and then give her resignation because she wanted to do that because she knew she was going to be fired. She thought, well, I might as well beat him to the punch and resign first. Well, before she could, as she was at his office, there was her boss, before she could utter a word, he sat there glowing. He said, you know something, that presentation was fabulous. We're getting so many people that are calling us and buying the products. That was so creative. And she didn't say a thing. I've always appreciated that she had, again, somehow, maybe, no doubt, she was a meditator, or at least she had that inner strength, that inner flexibility, whatever it took, to pull off something that was completely out of hand, that I think any of us would have been hard-pressed to save the day. And yet she did, and was even praised for it. Well, during these times where really there's such an unknown, we don't know what's next. We have no idea. And for us, it really does take a true resolve to go into the depths of our reserves as needed when we find ourselves, even as yogis and yoginis and spiritual aspirants, we find ourselves just thinking, well, I want to go out and see my friends. I want to go out and go to the restaurant, all of those things that we pre-March we're doing, and perhaps even taking it for granted. We're not doing that any longer, hardly. And so it really is, even for those with an inner life, it is a challenge because it's been going on for months since, again, the spring. And there really is no end in sight. We don't know how long will this last. And in addition to that, We don't know what's after this. Is this going to be the end of this trial? Or are there going to be more things, perhaps on an even greater scale? We just don't know. And this is tough. This is not easy for any of us because, again, any of you that are hikers or runners know that it really is a nice thing. That's a bit of an understatement to know, for instance, the run is going to be 10 kilometers. Then you know when you can pace yourself. But when you don't know, now that's a whole different story. And so for us, we don't know. And so it gives us the opportunity to go even deeper in our meditation and to go even deeper in our inner desire to commune with God and to not only deepen our relationship with God and Guru, but to do everything that we can to be charitable and to send out this light, these blessings in prayer. I was talking to a friend the other day that was saying, you know something, it's really, really hard for me to see and experience all these people suffering. And of course, as those of us that again have an inner life that's growing, by the day, the net result of growing spiritually is a continued expansion of the heart. And as our heart expands, we become, of course, more sensitive to people's needs and to the challenges that they're facing. And yet at the same time, as Swamiji has shared, when someone perhaps is drowning, you don't go in and drown with them. You, from the shore, you send them a rope or find a nearby stick and reach out to them so you can pull them to safety. And so it really is a delicate balance. And that's why there's a lot of people that don't understand those that have a spiritual life because they think that this joy, that is the fruit, of course, of meditation, is not real. They're making it up or whatever it might be. They just can't imagine, especially in times like this, that people would have peace of mind, that they would be able to keep their hearts open, they would be able to keep their minds bright and positive. It seems like these are people that are indifferent to the world's suffering, but absolutely, it's the absolute opposite. That the more that we are able to evolve spiritually, the more we begin to taste of omnipresence, as we begin to feel for others as we would feel for ourselves. And so more and more the incentive becomes, let me go deep so that I can have even a greater love, an unconditional love, a greater drive to serve in any capacity that I can, in prayer and in seva, anything that we can do at this challenging time. And so we're not shutting down like a clam or something. We, of course, would like to get back to some normalcy. That's natural. Master said, we're here to be entertained and instructed. Right now, it appears that it's a little lopsided. We're here to be instructed, and perhaps we can find some entertainment. And at one point, even, again, with the spiritual life as we have, we want to, spread our wings and fly about freely. And yet, we have to do that in meditation now. We have to do that now in prayer. Because this is, without question, even those people that are steeped in worldliness, they know that because this is an international phenomenon, unprecedented, that we've never experienced before, that there is a lesson that is there. And some that are fortunate, whether they have a spiritual life or not, then begin to ask themselves, what is this? What am I meant to learn in this? And those with a spiritual life, of course, know that this is fertile ground to grow spiritually. And when we use our imagination and jump ahead days, weeks, months, whatever it takes, and look back at this experience now long past, we will undoubtedly see that this was of real value. That we were, as I was talking to a friend the other day, she said, it really has helped me spiritually because I was just too busy running around. And I think all of us to some degree can claim that, a little too busy. When really the lesson here is that we need to be busy with God. That was Master's recommendation. And so we need to be ready, awake and ready, all the time. Remember when Master was filling the largest halls in the land in the United States, then before he would even begin his lecture, he would say, how feels everybody awake and ready? How is everybody awake and ready? And that's what we need to do for ourselves. We need to be alert, aware, awake, make any adjustments we can, even little adjustments, whatever it takes. Because the amazing thing about growing spiritually is that anything, any step forward helps. Remember Master's vision there, it's so beautiful in the autobiography of a yogi, where he was in a dusty marketplace. And different ones were looking up to some distant view. And at one point he became curious. And so he looked up too and saw this beautiful garden atop this mountain peak. And he was so attracted, so magnetic. He wanted, of course, to go there. And yet he said, as the other people too were feeling, that it's just too far. But then he said, I can take one step at a time. And he did. And in time, he was there. As Lahiri Mahashaya said, making, someday made. We need to continue to make adjustments in our sadhana, in our seva. Many times, although it makes me smile, when it gets a little too busy, I'll reflect on Master's words. When others are talking idly, go out in the garden and do a few kriyas. And by expansion, then you have a few minutes perhaps, read a spiritual book. You have a few minutes, then do just one of the energization exercises or one of the yoga postures, or say an affirmation, or do a visualization. Because really, as Swamiji pointed out in one of his videos that I saw recently, the entire battle, whether one is aware of it or not, but especially as yogis we are, the entire battle for every single individual is in the spine. That's it. And so, of course, the Maya, our karma, environment that's stronger than will, as Master said, is always trying to pull us down. Gravity is trying to pull us down. But if we keep things simple, which is, of course, the best always on the spiritual path, refashion life, ideally, as Master said, and the easiest way to do that is to keep our life simple. That's why he was so big on being childlike, is to constantly raise the energy up. And there's so many ways to do it, but the main thing is to be in that watchful state, to be the jnani, so that if our energy dips, then we think, well, do I like this? Swami Kriyananda shared something. quite interesting. Many, many years ago at the monastery, this was probably the early 70s, all we had there, it's all built up nicely now with buildings and so forth, but all we had in those early years was these old trailers and these American-style teepees. And that was it. And so he was walking by. At that time, the monastery was close to his home at the Crystal Hermitage. And so he had been on a walk, and he was walking back. And he saw all these lights in the trailers and teepees and so forth. And he said to himself, I did that. And then he paused and he said, do I like that thought? And he said, no, I don't. And he said he never, after that, and such a simple thing, he never again was tempted to claim that this was something that he had done. Although in the founding of communities, in the writing of so many books, his music, there wasn't then the temptation to say, I did that. Because he knew that when he looked out on the trailers and said, I claim that seva to myself, then his energy plummeted down. And so it really doesn't after a while, it takes some time, it really doesn't take that much energy to continually work on being here. This is the center of joy and will in the body, and here, the love of the heart is to be found here, rather than here, in the ego. And what do we find when we're in our egos, claiming things to ourselves? I did this and I did that. Our energy then plummets down. And so we can take that very valuable lesson from Swami that he didn't want to think in terms of, this is something that I did. I manifested Ananda. This was my doing. He found his heart constricted and his mind began to become veiled. And he said, no. And the whole Gita is all about that. That is the Gita, the war. And again, sometimes, I don't know about you, but I think all of us, we love peace. What is all this emphasis on war? It's always, again, fight the battle and rise to the occasion, be a warrior, all those things. And these are important. We know that, especially during these times. But to strike that balance. And that's where joy comes in. When we have that joy, then we do everything appropriately. That's why it's so important to meditate on the lives of the gurus, on the life of Master and Swami, because what they share with us again and again is how to behave. Again, as Yogananda's guru said, learn to behave. And learn to behave is to keep our energy in the upper chakras, keep this heart chakra open, this love. We need to have this. There's nothing more practical than being centered. We need to be here in the throat chakra. Calmness, expansion is to be found here. We need to be here. This is where we have that will, that joyous willpower. And as we live in our spines, and of course every chakra has a positive quality to it, but particularly, it's rightly emphasized to be in the upper chakras, we find that just before we say something unkind, because we're upset, things haven't gone our way, perhaps that day, and it's in the afternoon, we haven't had our cup of coffee, whatever it might be, and someone comes and irritates us, and they've irritated us earlier in the day. So this is the second irritation, and we're about ready to say something that would be unkind. We say, well, let me first check and go inside and see, will this draw my energy down? Absolutely it will. Well then, let's, in this instance, turn the other cheek. We're not doormats, but in this instance, turn the other cheek. It's fine. Don't have to say anything. Master, one time, there was this yogi, a prominent yogi. It was in Los Angeles. And this was during the 20s, 30s, 40s when he was there. And this man spoke very strongly against Master and his work. And Master wasn't there at the time, but other disciples reported back and said to him that this is what this yogi had done. And Master said, okay, well, I'll take care of it. Well, sometimes, of course, Master could be very strong because that was the need of the moment. But this time, he got on the telephone, and for some good period of time, he was saying to this yogi, this teacher, there in the Los Angeles area, I just wanted to call and say to you the wonderful work that you're doing, all of these things. Fantastic. Who would do that? I've never even heard of such a thing. And yet, that was the appropriate thing to do at that time. Why? Because he was always in that joy. When asked one time, when there's trials and challenges, does he lose some of his consciousness and of God? He says, no. Always there's that feeling of freedom inside. No matter what, there is that freedom. And so as we go inside, rising to the occasion, doing all that we can to be instruments for Spirit, we especially want to feel as children of God, because this is the truth, that we're free. And that, yes, there is that loose end where we're striving to awaken to that freedom, but we are free. And we do not for a moment want to say to ourselves, even that sometimes to convince ourselves that we're being grumpy, or perhaps it comes from other people, that no, we're not, we're coal-black beings. But remember, as Master said, a sinner is a saint. A saint is a sinner who never gave up. That we never for a moment want to identify with these passing delusions, because this karma that we are working on and discharging, in time, we'll be done with it. I had an image of the other day of the far north in Alaska, where you have these enormously high and towering icebergs. And I had this image of this is what we are doing from time to time. And I've never been up to Alaska, but I've seen in different movies, and it really has always been thrilling to me, where these huge chunks of ice fall down into the water below, making a huge splash. And I think, that's what's happening to us. Every time we're here at the spiritual eye, the point between the eyebrows, we're burning up karma. Even good thoughts can lift the Kundalini. We may not every day, hardly at this point, be burning up huge chunks of karma, though who knows, we hope for that. But still, there undoubtedly will come those times where we really do feel that some big, huge burden, like an elephant on our chest, has been taken away. It's like that dream Swami had, a very profound one, where he, in this dream, he and what was a best friend were having a real tough time. And the issue for Swami in this dream was that this friend, this dear friend, had betrayed him. And so at one point in the dream, he was about to die. And he thought, next lifetime, I'll get him back. This betrayal, it was despicable. And so he thought, well, wait a minute. This could go on indefinitely. I would betray him, the next incarnation, then the roles would be reversed, and on it would go. And he said, I do not want that. And so in this dream, with great will, he said, I forgive him. And again, this big chunk of karma he felt was relieved. And he felt, as is true with dreams, some of the dreams can be, as we know, they can be super conscious. And indeed, this one was. Some karma he felt was released by feeling, no, I don't want to continue on with this. And so, again, even people that are worldly, in the sports world, they'll say that quarterback playing football, American football, was in the zone. That football game, he did everything right. Every football he threw was received by the receiver for a touchdown or whatever it might have been. He was in the zone. Well, for yogis, we know what that zone is. People that don't know about their inner life might not, but they do know when they're in a flow, and they cherish that. And that's their beginning steps to venture deeper and deeper inside, to really discover that we can be in that zone, in that space, that nothing can touch us. In the break of crashing worlds, as Master talked about, again, we need to be centered within. And in reading the autobiography of a yogi and in Swami's beautiful path, we are, again, so inspired by so many stories with these great ones. We're able to rise to the occasion, and that's what we need to do. And so during this time, in closing, we really need to be selfless. So important, so important. The lesson that Swami learned in that reading that he needed to be humble. He was there before this crowd who was expecting Master. Instead, it was just he said, a little boy of 22 years old. We need to be humble. We need to be selfless. And in doing so, then we will make better choices. Remember, the crossroads of every moment is to make the good choice. As Master said, you make good choices and you're happy. If you don't, then you're not happy. And so by living in our center, then we have that hope because of that joy always piping within that peace, that love, that we want to continue to be centered and give the best of ourselves, which to say, to be instruments for God. So again, it's a joy to be with you all, even in this way. We're grateful for all this technology in order to, again, spend time with one another, our cherished spiritual family. So now we will have a song.
My Lord, in your presence I live without fear. Through tempest, through snows, through turbulent tide, the touch of your hand is my strength and my God. I ask for no riches that can destroy. I pray only in your love and your joy. I ask for no riches that can destroy. I pray only in your love and your joy. Answers will come, the singing must end. I welcome the darkness with you for my friend.
And now, please stand. We'll have our Aarti.
awake in thy light, I awake in thy light. I am joyful, I am free, I awake in thy light. I awake in thy light, I awake in thy light. I am joyful, I am free, I awake in thy light. I awake in thy love, I awake in thy love. I am joyful, I am free, I awake in thy love. I awake in thy love, I awake in thy love. I am joyful, I am free, I awake in thy love. I awake in thy joy, I awake in thy joy. I am joyful, I am free, I awake in thy joy. I awake in thy joy, I awake in thy joy. I am joyful, I am free, I awake in thy joy. I awake in thy light, I awake in thy light. I am joyful, I am free, I awake in thy light. I awake in thy light, I awake in thy light. I am joyful, I am free, I awake in thy light.
I would like to share a blessing with you. For those of you who feel so inclined, receive this blessing of the Masters, in whose love our line of Masters have descended, that we might all come to God. Pray too for the grace to share with all as you have received, for you are a part of all that is. May the light of the great Masters shine upon you. Shanti, Shanti. Now let's close with a healing prayer. Visualize everyone you know who's in need of healing energy in their bodies, in their minds, in their souls. It includes souls in need everywhere on this earth. See everyone shining in God's light, filled with His healing power, filled with His love, His peace, His harmony. And let's pray together. Divine Mother, Thou art omnipresent. Thou art in all Thy children. Thou art in all these souls. Manifest Thy healing presence in their bodies, in their minds, and in their souls. Go out with joy.